Once upon a mundane morning, Barb's day got busy without warning. A realtor in need of an open house sign. No, 50 of them, and designed before 9.
My head hurts.
Any mighty tools to help with this plight? Aha! Barb made her move. She opened Canva and got in the groove.
Bulk creating Canva sheets. Create 50 signs fit for suburban streets.
Done in a click, all complete.
Sweet!
Now, imagine what your dreams can become when you put imagination to work at canva.com.
Welcome to 4.0 to Pro, the pickleball podcast that focuses on a single shot, tip, or strategy to improve your pickleball game with every single pocket-sized episode. Our goal is to make you better on the court every time you hear our voices.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 4.0 to Pro, your pocket-sized pickleball podcast where we teach you a single shot strategy every single episode. I'm Mike O'Neill here in Long Beach, California. I'm joined by one Mircea, recent gold medalist at the APP Fort Lauderdale, I think, from Boca Raton. Hello, sir.
Hello, my friend. Yes, it was the APP Fort Lauderdale. It was mixed and had a great run with Natalie Bagby, the excellent lefty from California, originally from France. And we had a nice run and was fortunate enough to also get bronze with Jose Derisi, my regular men's partner. It was the first time I'd ever played with Natalie. I played a lot against her, so it was a joy to be on the same side of the court.
Congrats on getting the top step of the podium. I hear the air's nice up there.
Thank you. It was definitely a great day, and we were fortunate enough to beat arguably the best mixed doubles team, which is Lee Whitwell and Jamie Onsines. So that was quite a battle.
And you, if I'm not mistaken, were playing with the new Carbon True Foam Wave 4, which is the paddle that I've been playing with as well, unless I am mistaken.
No, you're absolutely correct. I used that paddle the whole tournament, and it was very solid. Enjoyed the control. I weighted it on the sides, which I think made a huge difference. So if anyone is using the 4, my recommendation would be to put some weight on the sides of the paddle, because that was the optimal setup for me, but obviously it's individualized.
That's exactly what I did as well. If you guys would like one of the new Carbon True Foam paddles, you can get that at carbonpickleball.com, crbnpickleball.com. Use the promo code 402P at checkout. Mircea, first of all, and I'm sorry to everybody, our shows have been delayed. It was all my fault. I had a very crazy deadline in my little YouTube car world that I had to do, and I was very off the radar, but very happy to be back here in the saddle. I had an incident now a couple weeks ago, Mircea, where I was playing with a group, and they were probably 3-5 to 4-0, maybe 4-2-5 type players, and myself and my partner won the game, but somebody on the other side of the court said, I don't know how you did it. You kept predicting the shot I was going to hit. And I said, well, I was reading your paddle angle. That's why. And I thought, what a great idea for a show, because this isn't something I've ever heard anybody talk about in the pickle sphere, Mircea.
Well, it's a really, really important topic, not just reading the paddle angle, but also their body positioning. We've mostly talked about body positioning, though, with hips and shoulders and wrist and things like that. But obviously, those things ultimately result in how the paddle angle looks, and the paddle angle is one of the easiest things that you can analyze on the other side of the net.
We're going to do this in kind of a two-part show, you guys. This one's going to be geared towards the, let's say, the 3-0 to 4-0, or if this is something you've never addressed before in your game, this is a really great primer on reading paddle angles. So first and foremost, why does it matter? Well, it's very interesting because, especially after we get older, we don't react quite as quickly as we did when we were 21 years old. A lot of people can make up for inadequacies in their pickleball game from their pure athleticism. And they're getting to balls that maybe we, as I'm a 50-something myself, couldn't get to unless I start predicting where the ball is going to go. Whenever you see pros play, they look so slow and so smooth because they are very much experts in reading paddle angles and where the ball is going to go.
Absolutely. And it's been the training that they do on an ongoing basis. In addition to watching their opponents on the other side of the net, they also watch their opponents on video. It's a combination of those things that really helps. But what we're going to focus on is how we analyze the opponents on the other side of the net today.
The idea is the ball is already hit. before it's hit, and their paddle angle essentially equals their intent. This is where they are going to go with the ball. And what you'll find is that most players react after the contact, but the pros react before the contact. And that is what I experienced in that particular game, Mircea.
Exactly. And it's like you're playing poker. All right. You look for tells. And in poker, it's a lot less obvious. So fortunately, in pickleball, it's a lot more obvious. We've discussed this before, actually, in terms of letting out balls go. And my point, whenever people say, oh, I can't get out of the way, the reason for that is because they can't get out of the way because they're making the decision as the ball's coming over the net after it's already been struck. The key is to make the decision when the ball is on the other side of the net. That way, not only are you able to move and change your position to where you think the ball is going to go, but also it allows you to react to the ball so much better. And that's really the key.
You found, like, as you were coming up through tournaments, that reading an angle or finding a tell of an opponent has helped you during a match?
Oh, absolutely. When I was coming up through tournaments initially, I really didn't pay attention to it, not nearly as much as I do now. And the most recent example that I can clearly tell you was in the APP Fort Lauderdale in the finals in the gold medal match. We were up a game and I think 10-3, roughly something like that. And Jaime and Lee, being the incredible competitors that they were, stepped up their game, got more aggressive, especially Lee. And of course, we were hitting the majority of the balls to Lee. So she got much more aggressive. We ended up getting, I think, our third side out. We had a bunch of match points. So we had third or fourth side out and we're up 10-9. So it's a completely different game dynamic. We get up to the kitchen. And Natalie's dinking cross court with Lee, and Lee gets a relatively fluffy ball with her backhand, and I see her turn her shoulder and basically kind of cock her wrist a little bit, take her paddle back, and I could see that she was going to speed up cross court towards Natalie, and I was guessing it was going to go cross middle, so I just reacted and put my paddle out in the middle, so with my forehand side, and she hit it basically right into my paddle, and I had hit winner down the middle to win the match. So based on literally exactly what we're talking about, that was the match point that I was able to predict based on my experience and paying attention to where I thought the ball was going to go.
I mean, the fact that it's that timely is also amazing, that you didn't even really know we were doing this show and that ended up being the match winner. I think what happens very often in pickleball, Mircea, is that as you work your way up the duper scale, let's say you're at maybe the 4-5-ish level, deception becomes a pretty important part of the game, and not telling your opponent when you're going to do a particular thing. The issue is you can't do it every single time. You can't just move your body and fake every single time you're hitting the ball. Even the pros don't do that. When you watch them in let's say a backhand cross-court dink rally, they're setting their paddle angle, they're setting their wrist, they're sweeping through the ball 95% of the time. It's that 5% where they might put a second hand on it or speed it up in a different direction or hit it out of the air or hit a lob or whatever that makes all the difference for them. But in general, the reason why they look so smooth is because those opponents on the other side are doing a very focused job reading their paddle angles.
Exactly. And I like to call it a slice of probability. And what I mean by that is if someone has a ball and their hips are turned a certain way and they're going to, take their paddle back a certain amount, they can only hit it within a certain slice because you have, if they hit it hard especially, because you have the sidelines on either side, and then you have your partner either to the left or right of you, so you can reasonably predict what the wedge is or the slice of opportunity or probability where the person is going to hit the ball. So that's what I like to try to focus on is kind of predict that. And the way the pros kind of change it up is not really so much by changing their paddle angles. It's really just by changing the direction of it slightly. So For example, if someone has a relatively fluffy forehand dink and they're about to speed it up, they might just do it 2 feet to the right or 2 feet to the left or a foot to the right or a foot to the left, even though their opponents know that they're speeding up. When I'm watching pro pickleball, I can predict the shot with 99% of the time. I can see what's coming. They might just change their location a little bit, and that's really where the subtle changes really take effect.
Yeah, and what you'll see very often is that a pro player, a higher level player, will hold and hold and hold and hold, and at the very last moment, they'll strike the ball. And what you're suggesting is they could strike it in any one of 3 places. It could be a shoulder, it could be a hip, or it could be body or something like that. But it's revealed in that last millisecond when they actually strike the ball, because they're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting for that speed up. And then when they actually execute it, the location is the hard part to find.
Yeah, and the location can be basically horizontal or vertical, so they can change the height, they can change the location horizontally, or the other thing that they can change is the pace.
Can actually read, especially in the dinking rally, because it's much slower. And this is a great place for you guys to focus on the next few games for the next week or so. First and foremost, the easiest thing to spot is their face angle. It's literally the angle of the paddle when they're about to hit the ball. You can tell if it's going to be flat or low, or if they're sweeping under the ball and it's going to be a little bit higher. So is the face of their paddle, is it open or is it closed?
Exactly. If it's open and it's facing upward relatively, it's probably going to be a slice or kind of a lift type dink. And if it's relatively more closed, then it's could be a drive or a roll, like a drive speed up when we're talking about dinking, or more of a roll. And if also the tip of the paddle is facing more towards you, I'll give you the perfect example I was thinking of from today. So I was playing a lot on the right, and the partner I was playing with is more comfortable on the left. So the person in front of me had a really good backhand roll dink, and I could see when the tip of the paddle was often facing towards me, I knew that he was going to go cross court every single time. When I could see that the tip of his paddle was more back and I saw the bulk of his paddle, I knew that he was going to hit the ball more towards me.
Interesting. So he had a Tui. Yeah, he had a Tui roll dink. Is
Yes.
that right? Okay. So I was just about to suggest that very often when someone is hitting with one hand, it's typically a slice, and you don't have at least a roll speed up to worry about. I know some people have it, but it's a pretty small percentage of people that can attack a low ball with their one hand. I know it exists. However, when people have a two-handed roll dink, cross-court, backhand, that's typically a topspin ball. The thing you have to worry about there is it going towards you, Mircea, or excuse me, in that case, towards your partner, or is he dropping that paddle face down and you're kind of noticing, oh, wait, because he's dropping with his wrist, that could come this way? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, exactly. And while we're on the wrist, let's talk about that. So if their wrist is more laid back, or basically, you can see that their wrist is sort of flexed. Again, it depends on if it's a backhand or a forehand, but
And one or a two-hander.
exactly, one or a two-hander. If their wrist is more upright, if you will, then it's probably going to go more cross-court, or it's going to be cut or a dink. And then if their wrist is laid back, and in this scenario, when I'm on the right and my opponent is the left and he's got a two-hander, if he has his wrist cocked, then I know that the ball is probably going to be driven at least in my direction or middle.
Yeah, and it's worth, I think, breaking down a little bit. When I was coming up in my pickleball world, I could put more junk on my forehand dink than I could on my backhand dink. Meaning I could hold my paddle face as long as I wanted, and then I could flick a little bit with my wrist because I had a lot of tennis experience. And then on the backhand side, I would pretty much have to be, I don't want to say like fully defensive, but if you got me into a slice dink, it's not anything that you have to typically worry about from an offensive standpoint. You don't have to be ready for a big speed up if you've got me wide hitting a backhand dink, if that makes sense. With two hands, That's something you might have to pay more attention to. But I think for most people that are in that 3 to 4-0 range, if someone's just doing a standard backhand dink with one hand, just read the direction of the flat face of the paddle, and I'll bet you the ball goes there more often than not.
Exactly. That's a really good point. And obviously, the type of ball that your opponent is about to hit, that also helps too. When I was on the right today and my partner hit a really good penetrating cross-court dink, and my opponents directly in front of me, my opponent's shoulders were turned a little bit to his. They were facing the sideline a little bit more. I knew that there was no way that he was going to try to speed up at me. It was impossible. I would still look for that offensive shot by scooting up to the kitchen line, but that also helps predict, or, you want to be in a better position to predict a potentially attackable ball based on the type of shot that your partner has hit.
I think that you keyed on it at the beginning of the show. They're based on the angle of their hips. There's only so many directions they can go with the ball. It's kind of opens up a triangle if you go from your right hip and your left hip in terms of like the general range of where that ball is going to go. And I think where this really can come into play is if you hit what you would call a fluffy dink. So you hit a dink that isn't doing much. It's not penetrating. It's just kind of there. It's going to bounce, and it's going to bounce maybe somewhat high, and they could do something with it. They could do a speed up off of a bouncing ball. That's where you've got to start paying attention to, like, how is their body turned? What are their shoulders like? What are their hips like? Because if they take that moment to tuck in and get ready to speed a ball up, you only have milliseconds to react to that ball. So you'd rather be ready with your paddle like you were to end that game than caught like, oh, all of a sudden it's going to go here. But it never would have gone on the other side because their hips were turned away from that side.
Absolutely. And that's where you're interpreting the body language and the shoulder and the elbow alignment. If you start to see that their body becomes more tense, or you feel that their wrist is cocked a little bit more, or their shoulder and elbow are more loaded, then you know something is coming. Now, we've talked about it before. We always want to be ready for a speed up, because if we get a dink, then we can react to that much more easily than the other way around. You or your partner hit a relatively dead or fluffy dink, like we call it, and you can start to see the tension on the other side of the net. That's when you know something is coming, and that might be a time that you want to shift in one direction or another. Maybe you want to scoot back like, a foot or two, but that helps you react and anticipate so much better if you're able to pay attention to these critical cues and poker tells. That will make everything so much easier in terms of being able to react to balls.
Yeah, especially if you hit a fluffy dink. Let's say you hit a dink to the middle, and that their left side player on the other side is about to speed it up. If you're the player on the right, you can pretty confidently, unless they show you otherwise, that they can target accurately, pretty comfortably get into a backhand shield and watch that ball come off the face. And if you're on the left side, you could do any number of things. Sometimes I like to shift over to the left a little bit, and I like to kind of really be prepared for a forehand counter. If I shift to the left, that gives me the opportunity to swing through a ball that they're going to drive at my right hip or even body. And if they go to my left hip, it's probably going out because I've moved to the left a little bit. That's just what I like to do. Some people stay in backhand shield on the left side, but let them show you what they're capable of in terms of their speed up accuracy before you feel like you have to cover every single ball, because I'll bet you don't. I'll bet you their shot's going to be narrowed down to one or two opportunities that they have to speed up based on what their hips and their shoulders look like.
Exactly. And use your court positioning as a tool to help you be in the right spot so you're not covering what we call dead space. If you see your opponent about to speed up, and let's just say today, I'm just going to use another example for today, like I would dink to the right side, and if I got it too far over to my opponent's forehand side, I could see that he was speeding up. So I quickly shifted to the middle, and I was basically straddling that middle line when I was the right side player with a backhand shield. And I knew that if he went to my right, it was impossible for him to keep the ball in. because of the way his hips were facing and how he was cocked, left shoulder in front, and he was a righty, so his right shoulder and arm were back. So I knew that the slice of opportunity basically was limited to either my midsection or to my left. And I knew that I could not worry about my right because I had the sideline. And if he hit it hard, it was going out. And if by some miracle he hit it soft to my right, I could go react to that.
Yeah, and you have this A-B in your head, which is like, hey, if he goes body or if he goes to my left, I've got the counter. If he happens to go here, I just move out of the way. That's your whole choice. And that's kind of what I meant before. You start eliminating opportunities for them. They don't have so many places they're going to go. They only have 2 or 3 spots. If you're able to eliminate 1 or 2 of them just by reading their paddle angle, it's going to look like you're remote controlling them. I've mentioned this on the show a number of times, but part of what you just said is like if somebody shows a propensity for hitting a particular shot from a particular ball, you can start feeding them that ball because you know what the next shot's going to be. So very often I have a guy that I played with for a long time, and if I'm on the right and he's on the left on the other side, and if I speed up to his left shoulder or left hip, he counters cross court 100% of the time.
You mentioned that.
I've never seen him in 5 years go straight back at me or down the line. So I just tell my teammate, I go, hey, if I get into this dinking rally, I'm going to speed up right here and just sit on forehand because it's coming right to the middle. It's like a cash register, dude. We can just do it over and over again. And I always wonder, I'm like, I wonder if he'll ever notice that I do this to him every time we're in this particular configuration, or it's just one of those things. So for this exercise, you guys, this week, we've talked about, let's work on split step this week. Let's work on reading the ball, whatever. All we want you guys to do this week is start watching paddle angles. Just do it. Watch the paddle, not the ball. Like especially during slow exchanges, when you're in dinking rallies, just start focusing on the paddle.
I was really doing this today when my partner was on the left and I was on the right. He was getting the vast majority of the balls because they were just going back and forth cross court. I was really able to watch the opponent in front of me hit numerous balls. I was focusing on his paddle angle, and I could predict every single shot, at least where it was going. Perhaps not the exact pace, maybe not the exact spot within 2 or 3 feet, but I was 99% correct when I tried to predict what kind of shot he was hitting. It's just like the skill that you have to work on. So when you have those dink rallies, watch the paddle angle, watch the angle of the hips, watch the tension in the body, watch the shoulder elbow. Are they dipping their shoulder down? We talked about this in the lob last time, about reacting to lobs. If someone dips their shoulder down and their paddle is below the ball and they hit a lob, well, that's how they're hitting lobs. So pay attention to that next time so you can react to it. Scoot back a little bit. But if you don't practice this, if you don't pay attention to it, if you don't do the intentional work, you're not going to be able to predict it as well.
We've spoken a ton about recording yourself. If you are on an off game, and you just take a little bit of video of a game that's going on at the moment. Let's say you record 5 minutes of it, or vice versa, if you have somebody record you, and you bring that back and fire it up on your laptop or whatever. Just watch that video for a few minutes and slow down the point. Try to put it in slow-mo if you can, and start recognizing what people's body language looks like for speed ups or for their dinks or whatever. If you rewind it, you can start predicting out loud what their shot is going to be, where it's going to be. If you're able to start doing that by watching video, you'll be really starting to get the hang of this in real life. It's such a cool skill to have when you've got it in your pocket.
I'm going to go back to when I really first got really into coaching in a more organized fashion. I was coaching MLP, and that's when I started watching video and watching one player at a time. One way you can do this without even filming yourself is watch some pro matches on YouTube and pick out one player, watch them during the entire game, look at their paddle angle, their hip position, where they are on the court, predict the ball that's coming, and then take that skill, go play a rec game, and try the same thing with the opponent. It's easiest to see the opponent that's directly in front of you. You can kind of follow the ball-ish when it's going slow, but focus on the paddle angle like we discussed.
If you're able to do that with a pro who does a very good job at disguising a lot of their shots, if you can get that down, you can certainly do your 3-0 group that you play in. But I think in general, this is a topic, Mircea, that a lot of people haven't even started to think about. So your homework this week, you guys, is just to start thinking about it. And what we're going to do for the next episode is we're going to start breaking down a more advanced version of this, as well as not only reading your opponent's paddle angles, but starting to disguise your own paddle angles and why that matters.
Yes, that's the task for this week, and hopefully everyone is going to go out and work on it a little bit. At least try to work on it for 1 or 2 games per practice session at the very minimum, and you will see it will start to become second nature. So make the hypothesis, see what someone's about to do, hypothesize where the ball is going, and see if you're right. And the more you do it, the more you will realize you will predict it correctly. And that's a really very satisfying feeling, and it helps you anticipate so much more.
Well, that's going to do it for today's ep, you guys. Thank you, Mircea. You rock like a hurricane, as always.
Thank you, my friend.
And next week, we'll do part B of this. This was the 101. That'll be the 102.
Perfect. Let's do it.
For Mircea, I'm Michael. Go enjoy the pickleball courts, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to 4.0 to Pro. For more tips, find us on Instagram at 4.0 to Pro. If you have a pickleball question, submit it at picklehelp.com. Now, get out there and dominate. But don't forget to have fun.